you guys got to sell us this venue. And it was like 30 business development managers there. We all went away for half an hour, put together our pitches, went up there, did all these pitches, which were like 10 minutes long. And at the end of it, he sat down, he went, well, they were all crap. He went, not one of you said, what do you need?
This is Jon.
And this is Nick.
And this is How It Is.
So this week's episode is a little bit different. Stop grinning there, Mr. McDonald. This week's episode, we just carry on. You can do that. We can do that.
No,
we can do that. No, I think stuff like that should be okay. Anyway. So this week's episode has turned out to be a little different than what we had planned. We did have 3 guests booked, and all could not be with us today for varying reasons. Variant? Is that a word? Various reasons. But luckily, we have each other.
You mean we always have a load of shit to talk about?
Don't swear. I got told off for swearing, and one of the edits the other day didn't even pick up my swearing. I said that the F word, and my kids heard it, and I do not swear in front of my kids. I don't swear normally. Never swear. No, never. That's right. Okay. Never swear normally. I'm a good host.
So what are we going to talk about?
What can we talk about? Let's talk about sales.
Yeah.
It's let's be honest here. It's something that I've struggled with.
Personally,
not from a company perspective, from the compliance guys. Maybe that, and I mean this in the best possible way, but maybe our standards are maybe impossible to kind of reach. I don't know. I think there is an element of it. When I speak to the guys here, and I've said and they've said in the past, is that nobody will be like me and you. I tend to agree with that for a couple of reasons, not being egotistical, but I think nobody knows this company like me and you. We know every part of it. People outside of the company want to speak to us. And I mean this in the best possible way, but customers are like herpes. Because if you're with us, so I can see you grinning, but you have a customer and the customer's with you for life. And we can't have them with us all the time. We can't service them as the way they should be. That's my personal opinion. People, I'll answer people. I know I'm talking, but I'll answer people at 8-9 o'clock on a Sunday night or something. I got no problem with that. But then actually during a Monday or a weekday 9 till 5, the chances are I won't be able to get in contact with them.
I was going to say though, it's like good herpes.
It's good herpes.
And that means, I think, when the customer lives with you, you've done a good job, because you've made such an impression on them from the early point that they want to speak to you. And if you're a good salesperson, account manager, that is actually what you want, because sometimes that separation means that you haven't got the same relationship afterwards. So it's probably a victim of our good first impression that we make, that people do live with us.
And passion?
Passion is or energy, as well as passion, is probably the most important thing I've learned recently. That is important in salespeople.
Yeah, and I go back to, we got a couple of products or tech products, the Drive app being one and Classify being another. And whenever I've sold those products, I've never given a demo of them, and that's kind of vexed the sales guys. And people have gone afterwards, go, yeah, I'll have it. Some have even gone, I'll have it. I haven't told you the price yet. They go, no, I need that. I need that in my life.
But that goes back to probably my favourite sales video. What's my favourite sales video?
Your favourite sales video? Alex Harmony? I don't know, you've got quite a few.
Andy Bounds.
Oh, yeah, the Andy Bounds.
The afters.
Yeah.
Which we might link to in the description. It's actually really good.
Yeah.
And that's talking about the most important thing is what the prospect will get after the sale, not our experience, not our past. And I think when you talk about selling Classify, for instance, what you're talking about is how it's going to make a positive impact on their business. and therefore the detail of the product, as in what we do, is not the most important part. It's what it's going to do for them.
Yeah, and again, we're using classify as a product here. Quite often I don't sell the product. What I'm selling is the service. So there's a couple of points we put out here. First one to speak.
Loses.
Correct. You lost. The listen to what. Just ask the question. What do you need? And I go back to I'll always tell the story to the sales guys when I was at First Response, and the late great Andy Meehan, who taught me a hell of a lot. He had us all up in Swindon, a really nice plush golf course kind of thing, and he said, right, him and one of the regionals, girl Jenny, we're going to be here, we're going to get married here, you guys have got to sell us this venue. And it was like 30 business development managers there. We all went away for half an hour, put together our pitches, went up there, did all these pitches, which were like 10 minutes long. And at the end of it, he sat down, he went, well, they were all crap. And we were all like, what? I thought they were brilliant. He went, not one of you said, what do you need? And that really resonated with me, And now, again, when the customers ring into us, go, okay, tell me your story. What do you need? And shut the up.
You nearly swore that.
I know.
It goes back to, I always think back to when I started in sales, which was selling cars, and we were taught to not just sell features, but sell benefits. Mm. But I don't think what we were taught was to ask which features or benefits were actually important. So I took one step past just selling features then. Mm. But it's only been as I've gone through the years that I've understood through reading, listening to other people, learning that even the benefits don't matter unless they're benefits to individuals. And it always goes back to our salespeople born or our salespeople raised, let's say. And I think anyone could be a good salesperson if you listen, you learn, and you care, because there's no real skill in persuasion other than just using the right words for the right prospect.
Yeah, I started off in menswear retail, so there's no real benefits to clothes apart from if you're wearing a waterproof coat.
Especially
or something
like
that.
Yeah,
very good. But it was all about the features. What does it look like? And that was that. But one thing I did, there's a couple of things I learned in menswear retail. Number one was know your stock. So it's not necessarily stock with these guys. We should know your product, know it inside out, which I carried on into the car sales. When I went into that, I knew nothing about cars. I know nothing about cars now, if truth be told. And I sold my first car in 1997. But I went out and I sat in the non-franchise cars and I learned about them. So I'd always have that heads up over my other work colleagues there. And guess what? I used to be the best at selling non-franchise cars. But I'd also learn stuff like, with the warranty. What did the warranty cover? I learned off by heart for the Peugeot warranty that it covers any component that's part of the manufacturer's original build specification, apart from wear and tear items. That was it, word for word. I learned that in 1997, and I can still say it now. But I know if somebody then tried to pull me up and say, you didn't tell me about that with the warranty, I'll go, you're a liar. I've said that word for word. And you make a joke about it, and they knew. They couldn't try and catch me out on it.
So, sales, I think you're effectively saying is a process.
Yes.
Where does that process start? And I don't mean marketing, because I think the correct answer is it comes through marketing and customer nurturing and stuff. But when you're a salesperson and you're going to speak to a prospect for the first time, let's call it the opener. What's a good way of opening a sale?
Well, again, if I go back into selling clothes, when I was working in London, we were not allowed to say, "Are you okay there? Do you need any help?" We weren't allowed to say it. because every clothes shop that customer had been into, that was said to them. So you had to look at a different way. So, the shop I work for is a company called Matches. It's in Richmond and Wimbledon. It's very, very nice quality apparel. And they would have a cappuccino maker and beers and stuff like that. So first things first, if you're walking around that shop, we got a nice cappuccino or a latte or just black, whatever. We're not going to charge you. Oh, great. That person now is going to spend half an hour in the shop rather than maybe 5 minutes in the shop. So when they're strolling around as well, you can go, look, these are European sizes. So this was my opener, is either do you want a drink or are you okay with the sizes there, the European sizes? Oh, yeah, I haven't got a clue what they mean. No problem. And again, knowing your stock, you know what was in the stock room. So if it wasn't on the shelf there, you know when to be able to get it.
I think reciprocity comes into that as well.
Word. It's a good word. Couldn't spell it.
You give them a cappuccino.
Yeah.
Let's say people feel like they owe you something.
Obligated. Yeah.
And I think like something I've heard people say: don't ever give any information for free, especially in professional services. You should charge people for your knowledge, and I don't agree with that. I think unless someone's asking for your time and all your information for free. Yeah. I'm always a fan of telling someone something that might be really useful on the phone.
This podcast.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, on a wider topic. But if someone's on the phone to you and they mention that, do you know what? This would be really useful for you. Let me tell you that. Automatically, they feel like they now owe you something, and I'm not doing it for that reason. I think that's just always how I've structured my professional life. Is that I believe that if you help, and that's how we started the business, was basically going out there just being a help to people. That pays you back at some point in the future. Yeah,
and like, something that, especially car salespeople, right, which is what we've both done, is they're always accused of being liars. And I have always been, through my life, is cards on the table, this is good, this is bad, and tell people that there's certain bad points about it. When people speak to us about licenses and stuff, and let's talk about broker licenses, and go, it's not an easy journey. I'm going to tell you right now, this is not an easy journey. Put 10 months of your life to one side. We are going to do all the hard work for you. There are other compliance companies out there will probably be a bit cheaper, but guess what? They're not going to do what we do. They're not going to do all the bespoke policies. They're not going to help you with all the interview technique, which you'll have to give to the FCA. They are not going to build your business plan for you. They're not going to help you with financial analysis. They won't tell you that though, but they'll be cheaper. But
I think what you talk about there again,
people trust you then, but people empathize. You gain the empathy with that dealer.
Yeah, it's authority, isn't it?
Yeah.
Again, like we talk to our salespeople about this, is when you're speaking to someone, if you're passionate, like the passion you're putting into what you say there, is exactly what you would do if you were speaking to a client. But the authority then comes from, they think this person I'm speaking to is passionate about what they do. They know what they're talking about. They're giving me information, so I'm going to trust this person to now help me. And people make that decision, I think, both subconsciously and also very quickly. And so the opener is really powerful, not just in what you say, but in that gaining trust from people. Qualification in sales, why is it important? You've given one example, but
well, it's important because you need to know what the customer wants. If it's good both ways, you know what I mean? Maybe they're coming for something that we don't do. So let's say it's, I don't know, what kind of licenses don't we do? I should know this. Investments. Pensions. Yeah. Oh yeah, we can do every license. Yeah, we don't get involved in that. Go to somebody who knows about it, who's experts in that field. But qualification, further down the line, again, if you don't qualify that person has got a series of criminal convictions, we've had murder and we've had fraud, haven't we? An attempted kidnap. Those are true story. But how do you attempt to kidnap somebody? Surely you kidnap them or you don't kidnap them, but maybe that's another story. But
depends how good they are at anti-kidnap.
I just don't get how you can be done for attempted kidnap. But
it's also then qualification to hold the approved person at the FCA.
absolutely.
Are they the kind of person we can work with?
Yeah.
Because, like you said, although we do the heavy lifting, I think sometimes that message goes too far, and people think, "Oh, you can do everything," and we still need some input, and they need to take the process seriously, so that when the FCA want to speak to them, they come across.
That's explaining.
Well, so qualifications, education, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. What else?
Well, I think one thing as well is the account management, before we come to closing, I think, is how you agree you're going to keep in touch with people, because certainly for our sales, sometimes it's a bit of a long process, but you want to keep in touch with people so that they're engaged for, post-sale services, let's call it. How can people, as an account manager, let's say, or even someone who doesn't see themselves as an account manager, but they may want to sell to that client in future, how's a good way to keep in touch with them?
First of all, if it's actual from, you say, how is a good way to keep in touch? That's something that you should ask that particular person.
Yeah.
Because we have a thing with Sun Motors, isn't it? And we were looking at the leads that some of the car dealers are just not picking up on the leads. And the question was asked, well, why? This one dealer has like 24 different leads. And I rang the dealer and he's going, are they fake leads? And I'm going, look, I can categorically tell you these are proper leads. And he's like, right, okay. But we've picked up the phone to them and they haven't answered. And I said, well, what way did the lead come to you? I was through a message. I said, so maybe
WhatsApp.
that, yeah, I said, maybe that's the form of communication that they wish to do this, have this relationship with. Maybe there'll come a point and you'll go, now is a good time to talk. Look, don't get me wrong. We, the compliance guys, prefer to speak to people. And that's because there's so much information and there's so many variables. And again, when I speak to people, and it goes back to just tell me your story. And then from that, then you can ascertain what's that.
You want to be able to add value as well, don't you? Which you can't really do just by sending a message. But that said, I have people that I say, when's a convenient time to speak to you?
Yeah.
So they know the method of communication. But then you get some that go, I don't want to speak to anyone, I just want to know your price.
Yeah.
And then you have the opportunity to go, look, I'm going to give you a price, but it's not going to explain the value or where that price comes from. So if you just price shopping, just understand that you're only shopping on price, not quality.
Absolutely.
And I give them the price.
Yeah.
Because that's what they've asked for.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a silly way of looking at it, though. Then what I mean? It's just with something as important as an FCA license and what value that can add to your business. And again, it's choice of words sometimes of what you use when you're selling. And like what I say to the guys in there is that the price of a limited permission application with us, I would say that's an investment in your company. You must use the word investment because they could get that money
one
back.
Sale.
Absolutely. And again, looking at some of the forums, and I go back and the FCA put up their fees, the annual fees. I think it's gone up to like £605 under the whatever the limit is. And this one guy says, I'm going to get rid of my license. I'm like, and somebody tagged me in. And I said, well, how many extra cars have you sold this year on finance? Oh, and this was midway through the year. This is like 6 months in. He said, I've done 20 cars this year. And I said, so you've sold 20 extra cars this year and probably made, let's call it £1,000 just profit in the metal on each side. So you got £20,000 versus £605. Where's the logic in getting rid of the license because of that £605? The guy came back and he said, that's one way of looking at it. Wow.
I think the other way that people look at it is that somehow they think that their customers will have just found another way to pay for that car. Like that car was the most important thing that the customer still would have come to them even if they didn't offer finance.
So
there's a reason that the big dealer groups offer finance. If they didn't need to, they wouldn't, would they?
Well, not only dealer groups. What about furniture like this,
Let's-
Nick? Go on, Nick. You can do it.
Do you want me to speak about my
Please.
theory, which is no one goes to DFS because they sell the best quality furniture. Why do they go there, Mr. Ricks?
Because it's the monthly payments.
Yeah.
They can spread that. They look at £100 a month.
They're not the cheapest sofas. They're probably not the best. I've got one, by the way, DFS, so don't
Me
start
too.
moaning at me. It's very nice. But people go there because they can spread the payments.
Absolutely.
It's as simple as that.
Unlike that lovely Italian furniture shop just around the corner from
Which is
our
now
offices.
shut down.
Yeah.
Probably, I say it's because they couldn't offer finance.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, it's definitely a contributing factor, isn't it? In my opinion. Are we? I don't think we. Do we need to talk about closing at the moment? I don't.
Well, do you know what? I think just to pick back up on one thing you said about communication, 'cause I think it's an important part, is a lot of people, I remember speaking to someone who said, I was doing something on the computer and I said, you've got some leads in your email inbox here. And you went, if they're interested, they'll just pick up the phone. I went, how do you know? And he went, well, if people are interested, to pick up the phone. I said, okay, let's say someone is selling exactly the same item as you, which isn't beyond the realms of reasonability. They're same town as you. Customer sends an email inquiry to both of yours, and it wouldn't be email now. It's more likely to be WhatsApp or like some motors messaging system. If they get back to the customer and you're just waiting for the phone to ring, who are they going to buy from?
I know.
He went, how do I use this email thing?
Unbelievable.
And to be fair, I changed his mindset. But communication types are really important. And it's not just young people who aren't communicating. If my mum sees a phone number come up that she doesn't recognise on her phone, she goes, I wonder who's ringing me. I'm not answering that. And I'm like, why don't you answer the phone and you'll find out who's ringing you? Yeah,
It's a bonkers.
so there are a huge demographic of people who don't answer the phone, and they wouldn't necessarily pick up the phone. Even me, I think I'm fairly tech savvy. I take every phone call. If I was looking for any small business and they didn't have a website, or a different method. A restaurant's a good one these days. And if you can't book online, how inclined are you to pick up the phone and book a restaurant on the phone? I don't even like doing that anymore.
Don't you see? This is a bizarre thing. Like my missus, right? If you think I talk, right, it's like I'm nothing compared to my wife, right? But she will not she will not ring for a takeaway or a restaurant or something like that, and I've got to do it all the time, no matter where I am. Say if they wanted to have a Chinese and I was away in Nottingham or Wolverhampton,
I'm the same.
whatever,
I have to do it.
I have to ring it, and I'm like, I don't get it, right? I go, the way that I've tried to explain to her, I'm going, do you think that person on the other end of the phone, it's the first time that they have ever picked up the phone and taken an order? They hear it day in, day out. That's their job. They do not care about how nervous you are. All they want is you to get through, tell you the order, tell you how much it is, and go, yeah, it'll be ready in half an hour, come and pick it up or whatever.
But when, let's say there's 2 Chinese takeaways,
Okay.
one has online ordering, same
One?
price, one.
That's the Spanish one, that is.
Spanish, and the other takeaway, you can only call, rightly or wrongly, which one's your wife going to order from?
Yeah.
You know,
totally
and it goes back to communication preferences. So back to sales, because we somehow got to
Yeah,
takeaways.
but we are talking about
It
the
is
community.
really important that you communicate in the way that your customers want to communicate.
But another thing that we do as well with helping the customer through that journey. I don't know if that's so much about. I think it is about the sale at the end of the day. Is that we give them that our compliance classify, which is our compliance. What is it called? It's not a CRM system.
Customer journey system.
Customer journey system with invoicing and all the bits and pieces. But we give them that because we've built in the training for around the policies and what those policies contain and what the questions, the likely questions, I should say, that the FCA will ask them.
Is it a try before you buy?
Yeah, I think it is really, but it also helps them. We're adding we're adding more value to that application service that we do. Maybe that's why we're the best in the industry.
So on that note, it was obviously Valentine's Day the other day. Now you know when we're filming this. And my wife dropped very inconspicuously into a conversation that she needed some new Jo Malone perfume.
Oh, right.
She did.
Mine wanted YSL glitter, and she mentioned it at least 25 times this
So when
this
I went
year.
on to Jo Malone and ordered it online, didn't go to the shop. Instead of a discount code, they had a spend a certain amount and you get a couple of free gifts. So it was a mini candle and a mini fragrance.
4 candles?
No, only 2.
Oh.
That's a 2 Ronnies joke. Was it 2 Ronnies?
Yes.
It was, yeah. And when I thought about that, because I love the psychology of sales and process of marketing, and if you think about it, they haven't now devalued the product that you were going to buy, had to pay full price for it, it's no discount code. But what they've actually done is given a small sample of something so that when the recipient gets it, they use it and they go, if they like it, they're now going to come back and buy full price again for that item. Whereas what was the chance that it would have got ordered otherwise? And when you take it back to Classify, for instance, what we're doing is saying, use this, experience it for free. And then there's much more chance of someone taking it.
With regards to that perfume, the YSL being 2 there. My wife bought me YSL. I can't remember what it's called. But that was a new one, and somebody just coming up to them in Boots or what have you, and
spraying them.
Yeah, it's in my eye, it burns. But the same happened to my wife with the YSL ones. She's now got like several different YSLs. Just because of the free samples.
Has she got more YSL perfume or Dr. Martin boots?
Dr. Martin boots, definitely. She's actually started throwing out Dr. Martin boots. She has that many. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that many.
So I think
unbreakable boots.
We've talked about opening. We've talked about customer journey. We've talked about
value,
keeping hold of people, added extras. Closing.
Honestly,
closing is the one bit that always excited me most about sales when I first started in sales.
Do you think of the Glengarry, Glen Ross kind of Alec Baldwin ABC?
I'm not old enough.
You've seen it.
Oh, I have seen it.
Come on.
But closing, I think again I've changed my mind on. But there are a few key things that are really important. I think with closing, one is summarising.
Absolutely.
What's been said. And getting agreement that that's thing.
Yep.
Reiterating the value.
Yep.
So having identified value up front, reiterating that. What would have been known as the trial close.
Yeah.
Which is, so what you're saying is if this, and this, you would go ahead now.
Yep.
Now being the key word, because otherwise they can come back in 6 months' time. And the one thing I've actually added, having listened and learned from many people online and in books, is what are your concerns?
Yeah, definitely.
Very different from have you got any concerns, where people will say no. I found that when you say what are your concerns, there is almost always an answer. And a poor salesperson won't ask that question because they're worried about hearing the concerns. What they would rather do is believe that a sale is going to go ahead and then complain afterwards that it doesn't. And when people say what are the concerns, one of 2 things can happen. The first one is they have concerns that you can't address, and therefore everyone should then agree that this is not a sale to proceed in. There's nothing lost at this stage because ultimately it was never a deal in the first place. What tends to happen though is the concerns aren't really concerns. They're actually just the most important things to that customer. And then when you understand those 2 things that are important to the customer, you can address them on the call. Then you can say, so if those things are looked after, is everything good? And 99 times out of 100 then, you have secured a sale that you didn't actually know was going to go ahead, and they're more committed.
Yeah, and, commitment is the key there. And, I always say, what are your concerns? Oh, I don't have it. And you know, don't you?
That's
sometimes
because what are the concerns, not what are your concerns.
Yeah, but you know times, and they go, oh, yeah, I got none. You go, are you sure now? You can tell me now. I got no problem in it. And they go, no, I'm absolutely fine. Okay, and then I'll go, right. So the next steps is that I always get it wrong. So just text me your email address. Just text me it to this number. Great. And if it doesn't come through, I know that they were just giving me lip service.
Yeah, I think we went through a process, didn't we, where people were sending out forms,
Absolutely,
and then saying, "Well, can we just fill the form in on the phone with people because that'd be quicker?" And quicker isn't always best. And the reason we stuck to that, or we said to stick to that, was because just by them sending a text message back, or sending a form back, was the intent to go ahead.
Absolutely,
and it's a mental commitment of I'm now going ahead.
Absolutely. You said something, and I was going to just talk about it. I can't remember what it was, though.
While you're thinking, though, I think the one thing I missed, which you mentioned, which is as part of the close, painting out what is going to come next.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you close a sale, that's when the fear kicks in from people, is the buyer's remorse. And that can be for physical products, it can be services, it can be anything really, is that fear of what have I done? If you paint out the picture of what's coming next, it doesn't feel like a closing point. It feels like a starting point.
Yeah,
and that's really important.
Yeah, and with the FCA, we can say to them, right, when we've submitted this application, because you're going to get 2 emails, one to say that you've paid the fee, and the other one to say that the application has been submitted. Then about 2 days later, you're going to have a series of emails. You can send those emails straight over to us. We are going to answer those for you. You then copy and paste and return it back to them, or thereabouts, and then so on and so forth. But we can tell that journey, what is going to happen in that journey, and that again, that gives comfort to the person on the end of the phone, because they're like, Christ, these guys know it. They know what we're doing. As we have done, nearly a third of all limited permission applications last year to the FCA.
That was Q2 of the financial year.
Yeah.
Strangely, the FCA haven't published the data for Q3 yet. Funny that.
Oh, well, yeah, very odd. Something I was going to say about about sales is about the invoicing and the pain that we've suffered in the past when we've invoiced too early because of those customers who haven't yet showed that true commitment, or the salesperson hasn't established that commitment. And then how it costs us.
I don't think people always realise the costs in business. So you get people saying, you haven't done any work yet. And while you can't count the cost of your marketing, your sales, your business costs, ultimately there is a cost up to the point of even making a sale. But then there's even cost in chasing, in discussing things, in systems that are used for processing. So you've really got to make sure that people are committed, because you do waste so much time after that point.
Well, if that invoice
is chasing your tail.
Yeah, and the invoice being out as well, we pay what do we pay on that?
Yeah, if you want to be really technical, at the end of a VAT quarter, you've got to pay the VAT. You've got to claim it back. At the end of the financial year as well, you're going to pay tax on it. There are always wider implications.
Absolutely, absolutely. What else can we talk about on it? I'm sure there's more.
I think maybe we should summarise, which is on sales. I think it is just about passion and energy are really key. Authority, following a process, keeping in touch, and making sure that you're not fooling yourself when you close.
I was going to actually talk about marketing with the and how you use marketing to gain sales. With us as well, though, being a business to business, it's a very, very hard kind of balance with sales and marketing. I think,
given the fact that we're struggling for a guest today, we could get someone from marketing to come and talk about marketing. Watch this space. And I think what's really important to say, though, on sales and marketing is that you'll hear this all around, but it is so true that marketing is sales and sales is marketing. They're absolutely not two separate things. And if you abandon one, you may as well abandon both.
Yeah. I'm very much from a marketing point of view with not the shock factor, but do stuff that other people are not doing. That's what I want to try and do.
Let's leave that for another podcast.
Yeah, this maybe.